Welcome to our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at color theory.
Very cool.
And we are going to be using a video from Yuuko Studio on YouTube as like our jumping off point.
Yeah, their crash course is really popular.
It is, and they pack a lot into a short amount of time. So
Yeah, they do.
that's why we're doing a deep dive.
Exactly.
So we're going to just jump right in.
All right.
So the first thing they talk about in this video is like the basics, right?
Yep, the foundation.
Like hue, saturation, and value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel like these are terms that a lot of people have heard before, but maybe don't actually know what they mean.
Yeah, it's like you hear them, but do you really understand them?
Right.
Like, how do you actually use them in your work?
Like when you're actually like mixing colors or choosing colors.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like really important to have a good grasp of those before you can move on to like
More complex things.
this is the more complex like color harmonies and stuff.
Right, it's like you can't build a house without a strong foundation. And hue saturation value, that's your foundation for color.
Yeah. So let's break those down a little bit.
Yeah.
So hue is basically like the pure color.
Right, like red, blue, green, yellow, those are all hues.
Like what you would see on the outer ring of a color wheel.
Exactly.
And then you have saturation, which is basically the intensity of that color.
Yep, so how vibrant it is or how muted it is.
So something that's like fully saturated is going to be super bright and vivid.
Right,
And then something that's like desaturated is going to be more muted, almost like approaching gray.
right. Like a pastel would be desaturated.
Exactly. And then value, that one I think is the one that trips people up the most.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky.
Basically, it's like the lightness or darkness of a color.
Yeah, if you were to take a picture of something and turn it black and white, the value would be what you see.
Like if you were to imagine it on a grayscale.
Exactly.
So it could be like a light red or a dark red,
Yeah.
but it's still red.
Right.
So those three things, hue, saturation, and value, they're like the building blocks of color theory.
Yep. They're the essential ingredients that you need to understand before you can start cooking up.
Awesome color schemes.
Right.
Now, something that the Yuuko Studio video really stresses is the importance of value.
Yes, they're big on value.
They even say it's like 90% of the battle.
That's a bold statement.
But I kind of see where they're coming from.
Me too.
Like if you have a really good grasp of
It
value.
makes everything else so much easier.
Yeah, like your colors are just going to work better if the values are correct.
Exactly, because value is what creates form and depth and contrast in your artwork.
So even if I'm working with like the most amazing color palette ever, if my values are off, the whole thing is just going to look flat.
Exactly. It's like a building with no structure. It just collapses.
So how can people like train their eyes to see value better?
Well, Yuuko Studio recommends starting with black and white studies.
So like just working in grayscale.
Yep, no color, just black, white, and shades of gray in between.
And that might sound kind of boring.
It can be, but it's so valuable.
Yeah, because it forces you to really focus on the light and shadow.
Right, and how those create the form of your subject.
And then once you have that foundation in value, you can start adding color, and it'll just make so much more sense.
Absolutely. Your color choices will be more informed and your work will have more depth.
Okay, so we've got our values down.
Check.
Now, how do we move on to like creating these like awesome color combinations that we see in like artwork and stuff?
Well, that's where color harmony comes in.
Ooh, color harmony.
Yeah, it's like music for your eyes.
I like that.
So basically, color harmony is all about creating a pleasing visual effect by using specific color combinations.
Okay, so it's not just like throwing any old colors together and hoping for the best.
No, there's a method to the madness.
There's a science to it.
Yes, exactly.
So what are some of the like basic color harmonies that people should know about?
Well, there are a few classic ones that are good to start with.
Okay.
Like complementary colors.
Complementary.
Those are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel.
So like red and green.
Yep, or blue and orange.
Those always create like a really strong contrast.
They do, and they can be really eye-catching.
And then there's analogous colors,
Right, those are colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel.
like blue and green again.
Yep, or red and orange.
And those create a more like harmonious and calming feel.
They do. They tend to be more subtle and blend together nicely.
And then there's triadic colors,
Triadic.
which is where you use three colors that are evenly spaced on the color wheel.
Yep, like red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah, the primary colors.
Exactly.
And that creates like a really vibrant and balanced look.
It does. It's a great way to create a sense of energy and excitement in your work.
So those are like the basic color harmonies,
Hmm.
but there are tons more.
Oh, yeah. There are so many different ways to combine colors.
It's really endless.
It is, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Okay, so we've talked about value and color harmony, but there's one more thing that Yuuko Studio brings up in their video that I think is really interesting.
Oh, what's that?
The difference between real-world color and digital color.
Ah, yes, that's an important distinction.
So basically, in the real world, light bounces around everywhere, and that tends to like desaturate colors a bit.
Right, things don't appear as intense in real life as they do on a screen.
So like if you were to try and recreate a color that you saw in real life on your computer, it probably wouldn't look quite right.
Yeah, you probably have to desaturate it a bit to make it look more natural.
And this is something that a lot of beginners struggle with.
They do. They tend to overuse bright, saturated colors in their work.
And it ends up looking kind of jarring and unnatural.
Right. It's like they're trying to replicate the vibrancy of a screen in real life, but it just doesn't work that way.
So what's the solution?
Well, Yuuko Studio recommends starting with a more muted, desaturated palette,
Okay.
and then you can strategically introduce pops of saturated color for emphasis.
So like using those bright colors sparingly.
Exactly. That way they'll really stand out and have more impact.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's something that I'm definitely guilty of not doing.
I think we've all been there.
I love bright colors.
Me too! But it's all about balance.
Yeah, moderation is key.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about value, we've talked about color harmony, and we've talked about the difference between real-world color and digital color.
We've covered a lot of ground.
I know, it's like amazing how much information they pack into this one video.
It is. They do a great job of explaining the fundamentals in a clear and concise way.
And speaking of fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
they also touch upon this really important point at the end of the video.
What's that?
Lights and shadows.
Yes, they're not just black and white
Exactly.
or gray.
Right.
They can have color, too.
Yeah, like instead of using pure white for a highlight on a red apple, you could use a slightly yellowish white.
Right, to mimic the warmth of the light source.
And for shadows, you could use like a cool blue or purple.
Exactly. It all depends on the lighting and the mood you're trying to create.
And it's something that I think a lot of people don't even think about.
They just default to black and white or gray.
But adding a little bit of color to your lights and shadows can really make your work come alive.
It adds another layer of depth and realism.
This is like blowing my mind.
I know, it's like a whole new world of possibilities opens up.
And that brings us to like the final and maybe most important message of the Yuuko Studio video.
Which is?
Experimentation.
Yes. They really stress the importance of playing with color and not being afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, like don't be afraid to try new things and see what happens.
Exactly, because that's how you learn and grow as an artist.
And they also recommend studying the work of artists you admire and like analyzing their color choices.
Yes, that's a great way to learn from the masters.
Like using the eyedropper tool in your digital art program to see what colors they're using.
Exactly. It's like having a peek behind the curtain.
It's a great way to learn and get inspired.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything from the Yuuko Studio video.
That was a great overview.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
We did from value to color harmony to the difference between real-world color and digital color and the importance of experimentation.
It's like amazing how much you can learn from just one short video.
It is, and that's why I love Yuuko Studio's work.
Me too.
They make complex concepts accessible and fun.
They do.
And they inspire you to want to learn more.
Okay, so now that we have like a good foundation and like the basics of color theory, I want to like shift gears a little bit and talk about how we can apply these principles beyond just like painting and drawing.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Like we often think of color theory in the context of art,
Right.
but it's really applicable to so many different areas of our life.
It is like interior design, fashion, even branding and marketing.
Like color is everywhere.
It is, and it's constantly influencing us, whether we realize it or not.
So I think it's really valuable to understand how color works and how we can use it to our advantage.
Absolutely. It's like having a superpower.
Yeah, it's like being able to control people's emotions with color.
Maybe not control, but definitely influence.
Okay, influence.
Yeah.
So let's delve into some of those other areas where color theory comes into play,
All right, let's do it.
starting with interior design.
Okay.
So think about how you feel when you walk into a room that's painted in like cool blues and greens versus a room that's painted in like warm reds and oranges.
Yeah, it definitely affects your mood.
Totally. Like cool colors tend to make you feel more relaxed and calm,
Right.
while warm colors tend to be more energizing and stimulating.
Exactly.
So if you're designing a space, you really want to think about what kind of mood you're trying to create.
Yeah, and what activities are going to be taking place in that space.
Like if you're designing a bedroom, you probably want it to be more calming and relaxing,
Right, you wouldn't want to paint it bright red.
unless you're into that.
True, some people might.
But generally speaking.
Yeah, cool colors are better for bedrooms.
And then for like a living room or a dining room where you're going to be entertaining guests, you might want something a little bit more lively and energizing.
Right, maybe some warm yellows or oranges.
And then, of course, you want to consider like the size and shape of the room and the amount of natural light it gets.
Yeah, all of those factors can affect how colors appear.
So interior design is like a really complex field.
It is.
But having a good understanding of color theory can really help you create spaces that are both beautiful and functional.
Absolutely. It's like having a secret weapon.
Yeah, it's like knowing how to use color to manipulate people's moods.
In a good way, of course.
Of course.
Making them feel happy and relaxed.
Or productive and focused.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about interior design. What about fashion?
Ooh, fashion.
Yeah, so just like in interior design, color can be used in fashion to create different moods and express different aspects of your personality.
Totally. Like if you're feeling bold and confident, you might wear a bright red dress.
Yeah, or a power suit.
And if you're feeling more relaxed and casual, you might go for something in like soft pastels.
Or neutrals.
Right.
And then, of course, you have to consider your skin tone and what colors look good on you.
Yeah, that's super important.
Like some people can wear any color and look amazing.
And some people have to be a bit more careful.
Yeah, like I can't wear yellow.
Really?
It just washes me out.
Oh, that's too bad.
You know, I love yellow, but it just doesn't love me back.
Well, at least you know.
That's true.
You can avoid it.
Yeah.
And focus on colors that do look good on you.
Exactly.
Like what colors do you look best in?
I think like blues and greens look pretty good on me.
Yeah, those are good colors.
Yeah.
And they're very versatile.
Yeah, you can dress them up or down.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about interior design and fashion.
What about branding?
Branding. Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
And companies put a lot of thought into choosing their brand colors.
They do, because they know that color can have a huge impact on how people perceive their brand.
Like think about McDonald's. Red and yellow.
Yeah, those colors are like instantly recognizable.
They are, and they convey a sense of happiness and energy.
Which is exactly what they want you to feel when you think about their food.
Right, they want you to feel happy and excited to eat their burgers and fries.
And then think about like a company like Google.
Blue, red, yellow, and green.
Yeah, those colors are all about like innovation and creativity and playfulness.
Right, they want you to see them as a fun and forward-thinking company.
And then you have like banks and financial institutions that tend to use a lot of blue.
Blue.
Yeah, because blue is associated with trust and stability.
Right, they want you to feel confident that your money is safe with them.
So yeah, colors are like a really powerful tool in branding.
It is, and it's something that every company should be thinking about.
If you're not using color strategically,
You're missing out.
Yeah.
Big time.
So we've talked about interior design, we've talked about fashion, we've talked about branding.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know there are so many other areas where color theory comes into play.
Like film and photography.
Oh, yeah.
And web design.
Even like psychology and therapy.
Right. Color can be used to evoke certain emotions and help people heal.
So, yeah, this deep dive has really made me realize how much color impacts our lives on like a daily basis.
Me too.
It's everywhere.
It is, and it's powerful.
So the more we understand about color,
the more we can use it to our advantage.
Exactly.
And create a more beautiful and meaningful world.
I love that.
Me too.
So are you ready to dive a little deeper into some of these other applications of color theory?
I am. I'm excited to see where this goes.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go. So we were talking about how you can apply color theory in different places besides just art.
Yeah, like it's not just for like paintings and drawings and stuff.
Right. It's like a more universal thing.
Yeah, it can be used in all sorts of fields.
Look, we were talking about interior design.
Yeah, how cool colors make you feel more relaxed, and warmer colors are more energizing. So like if you were designing a bedroom, you'd probably want to go with cooler colors.
Yeah, like blues and greens.
To create a more like peaceful and restful atmosphere.
Right.
But then for like a living room or a dining room where you're going to be like entertaining or having dinner parties and stuff.
You might want something a bit more lively.
Yeah, like some warmer tones.
Like reds and oranges.
To create a more social and energetic vibe.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you have to consider like the size of the room and the amount of natural light it gets.
Yeah, that can make a big difference.
Like a small, dark room might feel even smaller and darker if you paint it in like a really dark color.
Right.
So you might want to go with something lighter and brighter to open up the space.
And on the flip side, if you have a really large, bright room,
you can get away with using darker colors.
Yeah, without making it feel too overwhelming.
It's all about balance.
Always.
Okay, so interior design is like a whole thing.
It is.
But I think it's really cool how you can use color theory to like create different moods and atmospheres.
Yeah, it's like you're painting with emotions.
I like that.
It's a powerful tool.
Okay, so we talked about interior design. What about fashion?
Oh, fashion, yeah.
So, like, how can you use color theory to, like, elevate your style?
Well, I think it's all about understanding what colors look good on you.
And also what kind of message you want to convey.
Right. Like, are you going for a bold and confident look?
Or something more, like, understated and chic.
Or maybe something fun and playful?
Yeah, there are so many different ways to express yourself through color.
And I think it's important to experiment and find what works for you.
Yeah, like, don't be afraid to try new things.
And don't be afraid to break the rules.
Sometimes the best looks come from, like, unexpected color combinations.
Totally.
Okay, so we've talked about interior design and fashion. What about branding?
Brando. Oh, yeah.
Like, how do companies use color to, like, influence our perceptions of their products and services?
Well, I think it's all about creating an emotional connection with the consumer.
So, like, using colors that evoke certain feelings or associations?
Exactly. Like if you think about the color green.
What comes to mind?
Nature.
Yeah, like trees and grass.
And sustainability.
So a lot of companies that are, like, eco-friendly or focused on natural products,
They'll use green in their branding.
to, like, communicate that message to the consumer.
Right.
And then you have, like, the color blue,
Blue is often associated with trust and reliability.
which is why a lot of banks and financial institutions use it.
Yeah, they want you to feel like you can trust them with your money.
And then you have, like, red, which is a very bold and attention-grabbing color.
It's often used to convey excitement and energy.
So you see it a lot in, like, food and beverage branding.
Yeah, like Coca-Cola and McDonald's.
They want you to feel excited about their products.
And they want you to remember them.
Yeah, red is definitely a memorable color.
It is. It's hard to ignore.
So yeah, I think branding is a really interesting example of how color can be used to, like, manipulate our emotions.
In a subtle way.
Yeah, it's like subliminal messaging. Like, they're not telling you directly to feel a certain way about their brand.
But they're using color to influence your subconscious.
It's pretty sneaky when you think about it.
It is, but it's also very effective.
So I guess the takeaway here is that color is not just, like, a superficial thing.
Right, it's not just about aesthetics.
It can actually have a really powerful impact on our thoughts and feelings and behaviors.
Absolutely, it's a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, so we've talked about interior design, fashion, and branding.
What else is there?
There's so many other areas where color theory comes into play,
I know, it's like everywhere you look.
like film and photography.
Directors and cinematographers use color to create mood and atmosphere.
Yeah, like a horror movie might use a lot of dark and desaturated colors.
To create a sense of dread and suspense.
And then a romantic comedy might use a lot of bright and cheerful colors.
To create a light and airy feel.
And then you have, like, web design.
Oh, yeah.
The colors you use on your website can affect how people perceive your brand and whether they decide to stay on your site or not.
Yeah, like if your website is too cluttered and overwhelming, people might just click away.
Yeah, it's all about creating a visually appealing and user-friendly experience.
And color plays a big role in that.
And then there's, like, the whole field of color psychology,
Yeah, that's a fascinating area.
like how different colors can affect our moods and behaviors.
It's like color therapy.
Yeah.
Like using color to help people heal and improve their well-being.
So yeah, this deep dive has really made me realize how much color impacts our lives.
Me too.
It's like we're swimming in a sea of color.
And we don't even realize it.
But the more we understand about it.
The more we can appreciate its power and beauty
Exactly.
and use it to our advantage.
I love that.
Me too. So we've talked about how you can use color theory like in all these different places.
Yeah, like it's not just for artists anymore.
Right. It's like for everyone.
Like interior designers, fashion designers, branding experts, web designers.
And even therapists.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's everywhere.
I know, it's everywhere.
So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk about like the psychology of color.
Ooh.
Like how do different colors actually make us feel?
Right, because we were talking about how, like, in interior design, cool colors are more calming and warm colors are more energizing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But, like, is there more to it than that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, is there, like, a whole science behind how color affects our moods and behaviors?
There is. It's called color psychology.
Color psychology, okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research that's been done on it.
So, like, what have they found?
Well, for example, they found that the color red can actually increase your heart rate and blood pressure.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it's like a stimulant.
That makes sense because red is often associated with, like, danger and excitement.
Exactly. Like think about stop signs and fire trucks.
Yeah, those are all red.
And it's not a coincidence.
They want you to pay attention.
Right.
And then what about blue?
Blue is the opposite of red.
So it's calming.
Yeah, it can actually lower your heart rate and blood pressure.
Wow, that's interesting.
And it's often associated with feelings of peace and tranquility.
Which is why a lot of hospitals use blue in their decor.
Right, they want to create a calming and healing environment.
And then what about green?
Green is often associated with nature and growth.
Yeah, like trees and plants.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it can have a very soothing effect on people.
That's why a lot of people like to be surrounded by plants.
Yep, it makes them feel more relaxed and connected to nature.
And then what about yellow?
Yellow is a very cheerful and optimistic color.
Yeah, it's like the color of sunshine.
And it can actually boost your mood and make you feel more happy.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's a very uplifting color.
So basically, every color has like its own unique psychological effect on us.
Yeah, it's like a language that we don't even realize we're speaking.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is, and it's something that we can use to our advantage.
Like how?
Well, for example, if you're feeling stressed or anxious.
You could surround yourself with calming colors like blue and green.
Exactly, or if you need a boost of energy.
You could wear something red or yellow.
Yep, or even just look at pictures of those colors.
Wow, so color can actually be like a form of therapy.
It can be. It's pretty cool, huh?
It is. I'm like totally blown away by this.
I know, it's amazing how much power color has over us.
Like a superpower.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that we can all use to our advantage.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into color theory.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground.
We did, from the basics of hue, saturation, and value,
To color harmony and the psychology of color.
and all the different ways that color can be used in our lives.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been a really fun and enlightening journey.
I know. I'm definitely going to be looking at color in a whole new light from now on.
Me too. It's like a whole new world has opened up.
And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
Yeah, I hope they're feeling inspired to explore the world of color and all its possibilities.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us on this colorful adventure.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.